Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on this chilly Wednesday morning. Not really chilly. It's like almost 50. I didn't even wear a coat today. I just wore my sweatshirt. Not that it really matters much. But regardless, how's everyone doing? 2 episodes of Daredevil last night. I forgot they were doing that. Partially because I think they wanted to get this whole thing out, so there's no overlap between this and Andor next month. And then on top of that, too, I think part of it was they really wanted to have this show come out in its entirety before Easter, like during Lent. And you don't have enough time to do that if, if you don't double up on episodes at some point in here. And I think this is a good choice of episode to double up on, if I'm being honest. Because I think that if the episode that was the first one was the only one this week, like if the only episode that came out this week was the one in the bank, I feel like people wouldn't have been thrilled about that. I feel like people would have been a little bit, because it's I don't want to call it filler, because it is still important to Matt's arc. But it's very much we're between arcs in the comic. We haven't gotten into the next big one yet. All right, what's going on? Well, Matt Murdock needs a loan. He's going to go to the bank. Oh, who works at the bank? Kamala Khan's dad. And they're going to team up because the bank's getting robbed and Matt's going to save the day without going into Daredevil costume because he can't reveal his identity. All great stuff. It feels ripped from a comic book. And I love, the how proud her dad is of her the entire time. He's got a Funko Pop that he had custom made of her sitting on his desk. Like, all of that's really endearing, and I really love that cast. It's interesting that this episode kind of breaks up the action where it does. Because like I said, it feels like an episode that's designed to kind of bridge arc to arc, but at the same time, it really doesn't. Like, it doesn't really bridge anything or change anything or anything like that. Like, I think that as entertaining as the episode is, and I love the dynamic with the robbers, I love Matt's dynamic, with the bank robbers. They keep calling him the what do they call him? The solicitor, because they're all Irish. I love that whole dynamic that they have going on. The fact that the robber is NYPD. Everything about this episode kind of clicks for me, and I really enjoy a lot of it. It just, for what role I had prescribed it doesn't quite fit in as nicely as you would anticipate. I think that if you're doing something like this, and it is going to be this gap, this thing to bridge the gap between, two arcs. It's I don't think there was a cohesive arc before it, and I don't know if there's a different cohesive arc after. It just feels like it feels more like an intermission more than anything else, where it's let's take a break. Let's make sure we remind everyone, if the scroll comment wasn't enough, let's make sure we remind everyone that this is, in fact, in the MCU, same as everything else. And let's give a little bit of an update on where they are with getting together the Young Avengers team, because she's out in San Francisco. Last we saw her, she was meeting up with Kate Bishop, and they were saying, hey, I heard Scott Lang has a daughter. She's out in San Francisco. So they're out getting this team together, and I'm very interested in that. I like that they're pursuing that. The second episode, though, god damn, the last 10 minutes of that episode are just great, where we finally get Daredevil back in the suit, and we finally get Fisk back as Kingpin, and it's just this juxtaposition of the two of them indulging their darker halves is just great. And I think that what that episode really does is kind of lays out what the dynamic is going to be. I would say not just for this season, probably also the next season too, this idea of the anti-vigilante task force. I would have liked to have seen more, the only issue I have with this anti-vigilante task force, and we get Swordsman too from Hawkeye. The only issue I have with this is that I don't feel we've had enough time with other vigilantes in New York for this to be this is something that we need an entire task force to deal with. Because I get what they're going for. They're going for Devil's Reign, and we've been talking about that for as long as it's been going on. This is clearly where the show is going. Good for us to get this. Lucky us. We're all better off for this. Especially in the current political climate. I think that there's some fantastic ideas in play here. The only thing is, I think that when we talk about who are the masked vigilantes in New York, there really aren't a ton of them. Because did Echo go back to New York? I don't think she did. I think she stayed back home after her after her miniseries. Kate still lives in New York. Her identity is not publicly known, Kate Bishop. Miss Marvel, but that's outside the jurisdiction of Mayor Fisk, because that's in Jersey City, not in New York. So, cool, I guess. Oh, my heat was on. Fuck, that's why it's so hot in here. Who was the other one? Let's see, Swordsman, I guess, is out there. White Tiger's out there. You have all the Defenders, but we've only seen Daredevil and Punisher so far. But Jessica Jones is out there somewhere. Wildcat's out there somewhere. There are these characters, but I think next season we're going to get more of them introduced, or reintroduced more accurately, as they start to get rounded up by this task force. Because I think this task force is not going to end, especially now that Muse has been dispatched. Muse has been captured, so we don't really need, that's going to be the thing that's going to, here's what they're going to, if they're smart, here's what they're going to do. But we saw a little bit of this yesterday on the news, actually. In New York, they've been passing a number of criminal justice reforms, be it bail reform, be it, either bail reform or discovery reform, which was the one that was in the news yesterday. But these are all things that are happening on a statewide basis that are designed to help out the accused, so that way they don't have as much of a disruption of their life while they're going through, because you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. that's how the criminal justice system works. So we see this a lot, like this is happening in real life, and one of the things that consistently happens with these reforms is that the entities who are responsible for dealing with them, when they aren't happy with them, will intentionally do things to screw up to cause bad outcomes. And then be like, see, it's because of them. It's like, we saw this with, We saw this with, with bail reform, where it's like, people aren't getting bail for things they should have done. It's like, well, no, you're intentionally undercharging people, so that way they won't get bail. That way they won't get remanded into custody. Like, you're intentionally doing that with the intent that you get this outcome, and you can play politics with it. It's the same thing. Now, that is what I think. If this show has balls, and it's a Disney show, so I'm not 100% committed to that as a possibility. If this show has balls, that's where this is going to go next. Muse will be captured, and then they're going to be like, "What? Muse was not killed at the end of that, I don't think." I mean, people took a lot of hits on this show, but like, Muse was taken into custody and all of that. This is going to show up this anti-vigilante task force. So if there's anything to be done here, what's going to end up happening is they're going to intentionally botch the case so he can go free. And then they can blame Daredevil for it. That's where this is going, I think. Or at least that's where I would go with it. I don't know if that's something that Disney would allow. I mean, that's the thing, is that I think we're going to have another episode later this week about Snow White, because I feel like there was that Variety article that I kind of want to talk about, because it is just deplorable on several levels. For that article to have run the way it did, the issue that I have is I don't know if Disney's going to fully commit to that. Because I don't know if they're going to fully commit even to the Punisher logo stuff. Or if the extent of it's going to be like the Punisher being like, yeah, they're just fanboys. And if that's it, then it's like, then what are we wasting our time doing all of this for? Like, why bother even addressing this real world issue? But yeah, I mean, I enjoy the show. I enjoy what they did. I think that the having to stay quiet fight scene in the bank is pretty cool. I think the whole thing with what was it? What was the other one that they did? That was in the way that they cut back and forth between Daredevil and Kingpin in the end of that, where it's like the two of them embracing who they really are. Like, that whole thing was just so well done. Let's just see where this show goes from here. That's my thing, is that it's like, I'm optimistic that there are going to be good decisions from here on out with this show, because they've made good decisions so far. I'm not overly optimistic that it's going to stick the landing, because I feel like my version of it is not going like that, and then that's fundamentally the issue that we're going to have to grapple with. What does it mean if my version of the show is better than, like, the version in my head is better than the version that we end up with? And let's see how that works. And I feel like that's what this show needs to grapple with to get Muse out. And I think that's kind of something that, like, I would say to an extent is something that we've seen happen over the course of the Defender shows. Like, let's not forget that, like, this is a recurring theme from these shows. Like, I always go back to in Jessica Jones, they have Kilgrave dead to rights. They captured him. He's in this tank. No one can get him out. It requires what's her name, Carrie-Anne Moss, acting incredibly out of character to get him out of that tank, to continue the show for another 3 episodes. Like, that is something that I think is a interesting conundrum that I think putting these characters in is kind of, intriguing, so to speak. And I think that, like, if the solution is just, whatever, then I don't know what to do with that. I think the other thing you could do, because I think, like, there was that guy earlier in the season who came up to Matt's girlfriend at the book signing and was like, I really need to talk to someone. Can we set up an appointment? I really need to talk to someone. And she was like, yeah, call my office and we'll do that. I think there's a chance that because we've seen the therapist, I forgot her name, but because we've seen her play both sides of this, we've seen her play, We've seen her play, and she's not playing both sides against the middle in some kind of nefarious plot. It's just she's kind of caught in the middle of this thing where it's like on one side she's giving couples therapy to Vanessa and Fisk. On the other side, she's dating Matt Murdock. Like, it's an interesting place to put this character, and it's an interesting character to put between them, so you can see both sides kind of interact with a neutral, both sides harboring a secret. It's a very interesting dynamic in play. And I think that guy is going to end up being Muse. And if that guy is Muse, then that gives you another layer to this. Because then you can be like, oh, well, now we have this guy who's also telling, who's also involved. Because now she has an interest in figuring out what makes vigilantes tick too. I forgot Spider-Man in the whole conversation of, like, who are the vigilantes in New York. Like, he is still out there somewhere. Like, but the issue is, it's like, I don't think there are enough vigilantes to really do that. And keeping in mind, the next season is going to come out in its entirety likely before, before, Doomsday. And does Doomsday deal with this? And that's an interesting question too. I would say probably not. I think we're beyond the days of, like, oh, well, this show is, it's all connected. I think we're back to the old Marvel TV rule where the Marvel TV stuff is as canon as you want it to be. Like, they'll bring in characters from the TV shows and they'll bring in elements from the TV shows, but you don't have to have watched it to understand what's going on. Where it's like, I think that's kind of where we are now, and if that's the case, then okay, fine, I guess. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that plays. Especially when this show feasibly, if this show comes out same time next year, this will be likely the last Marvel Studios thing we see before Doomsday. So it could be interesting to see that. But I think that's a good place to wrap up for today. Our next episode will be Friday. We'll be talking about Bob Trevino Liked It, the movie that premiered, I think it premiered last year at Sundance, but it did a lot of the festival circuit last year. We talked about this movie quite a bit on 30-minute reviews over the course of several months that we covered a lot of the festivals, because it went everywhere it went. It was just kind of a huge hit for them. It's now coming out in theaters, so we're going to see it on Friday. But we'll wrap up there for today, and until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.